Voices of Planet Radio.
Another dimension, a dimension of insight, a dimension of understanding. You are entering the place where reality collides with truth. There are no limits, there are no boundaries. This is Off Planet Radio.
Welcome to Off Planet Radio. I'm Randy Moggins, and I have a great show lined up for you tonight. I actually have several people on the line with me. My guest tonight comes to us from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Is Chris Kehler. He is a quantum energy practitioner who specializes in the problematic areas of the body and the stressors. He spent 30 years in the printing and newspaper industry, retired in 2007, and doors opened for him that led him into the world of energy healing. He deals in a number of different modalities. Some I'm familiar with, some not so much. I'm kind of familiar with Radionics, and I'm familiar with dowsing and working with crystals. And so there's a number of different things that are going on. We love doing shows about alternative, I don't even like the term alternative. Scratch that. This is about healing. When they start labeling things alternative, that's just like, this is not second best. This is the real deal. This is healing. And with that, before I talk myself into another rabbit trail, I want to introduce to the audience Chris Kehler. Good evening and welcome to Off Planet Radio.
Hey, Randy. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's great to have you on. You know, it's funny. I had actually seen one of your YouTube videos at one point, and you were talking about aliens and UFOs, and I'm going, oh, right, this is somebody I should talk to. And providentially, universe lined things up, and here you are.
Here I am. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I do talk a lot about the whole alien aspect. Now, the work that I do is basically finding the root cause of anybody's health problem. It doesn't matter what you have, if it's acne, if it's cancer, if it's hemorrhoids, whatever it is, any kind of emotional problems, mental problems, soul problems, no matter what it is, what I do is I find the root cause. And what I've found within my work is trying to find all these answers in my quest with working with quantum energy and working with spirit guides and working with all of the energies available to us from the Creator, from God, from the universe, is that a lot of information that aliens, Zeta Reticuli and reptilians and archons and various other ones do have a very big influence on our health problems.
Absolutely. I mean, anybody... Okay, for this audience, this will not come as a surprise. Yes, this is a huge issue. To mainstream audiences, this may seem bizarre. I mean, I've had my fair share of encounters with these entities, and I think a lot of my audience has as well. But it's definitely not exactly the everyday encounter that somebody's going to have with their healing practitioner. Chris, I got to ask you this up front. How did you come to understand this? How did you come to accept the fact that we are dealing with ETs, aliens, non-human, sometimes non-local beings?
The way it really got started is when I started in this work of healing with energies and quantum energies and psychic energies. I did meet somebody who is my toolmaker in Alberta, Canada. His name is Wayne Gatos, and he is probably one of the highest people in energy on the planet. His main job is to run current into the earth grid to remove all the negativity, all of the alien aspects so the earth can go through the ascension process. And he deals a lot with moving out ET and aliens and all these different consciousness, all these different multi-dimensional type of species. So he's given me a leg up and told me a lot about them, what to expect and how to work with them. And then after, learning that from him, my pendulum and my guides, they took me to many, many steps farther, deeper down the rabbit hole, if you will, as to, number one, identifying exactly what these critters are and how to get rid of them.
And, when we encounter this type of thing, we're dealing with something that's interfering with our energetic field, no matter whether the encounters are what you would call a classic abduction scenario, or some people call them contacts, but we're dealing with beings that have the ability to interact with us on the quantum level, as you put it, in a way that, unfortunately, certainly the Western mind, the modern Western mind, still doesn't dignify the fact that we are not just this physical meat sack body, but in fact a larger part of us is this quantum energy field that's around us. So in dealing with healing people at that level, I imagine that what you're encountering is the ability to read what is going on in the energetic field of a person.
That's absolutely correct. When I work on somebody, I consider many bodies of energy within us. There's a lot of modalities like Reiki, quantum touch. There's different aspects of healing that I consider maybe 4, 8, or 10 bodies. I consider about 60 different bodies. The ET will consider certain bodies. They work really good in what's called the holographic body. It's been said that everything around us, or everything in life right now, is a hologram. Well, we have this body within us. It's called the holographic body, and it's kind of like a movie theater. So if an ET wants to put a program in there and keep that program running, it could mean that we keep on repeating the same thing over and over again. And they can cause a lot of turmoil and trouble in our lives by doing that. There's also the causal body, which is a blueprint of our body within our aura. Now, our physical body, our density, reads off of that causal body. And to best describe exactly what it's all about, we've all heard about phantom pain. Okay, somebody loses a leg in an accident, and they still have pain in that leg. They still feel the leg is there. That's because that leg still exists in that causal body. So your body is reading off it, so your body still thinks it's there. So when they get into these bodies, the causal body, they can make adjustments. They can put implants. They can do all different types of things to our causal body that will cause an effect within our physical body. So we feel that there's something wrong, but yet you go to a doctor and they're going to look at you and say there's nothing there. So how can nothing be there when you have this pain in your head, when you have this pain in your gut, when you have nausea all the time or dizziness? How can something be there or not be there when you have these symptoms?
Well, and you just went into something here that is a problem with allopathic medicine, in that our traditional approaches to healing have been through the allopathic route, which is largely dealing only with the physicality of a person, almost to the exclusion of anything else. And even on that scale, dealing with the observable, because they're locked into the empirical scientific method. And doctors would, in all likelihood, based on what I know of doctors, and I have a brother who is a surgeon, I would say that their intuitive aspects are trained out of them. They are not trained in intuitive medicine in any way, shape, or form. So we're basically, somebody like you is filling a gap here that's not really taken up by any other type of healers in terms of being able to go beyond the physicality of the human.
That's exactly it. When you consider a health problem of any sort, again, you have to consider the spiritual, energetic component along with the physical component. A lot of energy healers will focus on the energy component or the spiritual part, and that does a lot of good work, but it still doesn't quite finish the job. So what I do, I'm sure there's lots of other healers that do the same thing, but I focus on both. What is the spiritual aspect? What is the universal, energetic aspect of this problem? Where does it really stem from? Okay, so we clear all that out, and then we start going after the physical, like a parasite, a virus, a bacteria, whatever it may be. So you have to consider both things. There's a lot of things going on right now in the universe, a lot of big changes happening. And on a daily basis now, I'm going up level after level within my guide group and with the energies I'm working with, and I'm getting fed new energies, new thoughts every day. When you're working with healing like this, and you're using a pendulum and charts, and you're trying to identify what is there, all this energy works within a law of the universe called the law of identification. If you identify something, it has to leave. So if you, let's say you're playing hide and seek, and you say 1, 2, 3 on Randy, but it's really 1, 2, 3 on Chris. Chris is not caught. Same thing in the energy realm. Same with entities. Same thing with aliens. Same thing with poltergeists and spirits. If you identify them, they have to go.
You raised something interesting there, Chris. The changes we're going through. I've been talking about this on radio for about 8 years because I knew it was coming a long time ago, and we're in it. And it's called many things. It's called shift. It's called the thinning of the veil, the galactic center. Pick one. But we're in a profound time of extreme change for humanity. And something that I've been getting for a long time now is reports from my listeners, from people that communicate with me, of symptoms of things that are just bizarre sometimes. And even in my own case, I'm a pretty healthy guy. I got very sick last year, could never quite explain what happened there. But attendant with that was kind of this intensive energetic that has just been streaming onto the planet nonstop for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, well, what's happening right now, there are a lot of energy changes happening in the planet. The energy is rising. So at one time we used to have a frequency, the Schumann resonance, they call it. I think it was 42.5 or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. But now it's going up. The Schumann resonance is rising. The Schumann. Yeah. So that is rising. Now, what happens when the energy rises within the Earth, it also transmits into us. And as our frequency, our energy rises, the low density energies within us, the dark energies, are shooken out. They're harmonized out of our bodies. And as this happens, they leave knocking things over, if you will, like it's trying to kick somebody out of a party, and they start knocking things off of shelves. Well, that's kind of what's going on within us. Now, I have a good friend in Winnipeg who's a firefighter. He's been doing it about 30 years, and he came to see me last week for an appointment. He says, Chris, in all the years I've been doing this, I have never seen so many suicides in one weekend. The number of suicide rates is going sky high.
Yes.
That's because people aren't able to handle a lot of the changes that are going on. There's a lot of people who have been in relationships for years and years and years. All of a sudden, you don't resonate anymore with the person you're with, and you end up splitting up, and nobody really understands what's going on. But in the small scale of things, that is what's going on, is the energies are changing. A lot of people aren't awakened to know exactly what's going on, and they're reacting in certain ways that is causing disruption in their life. Now, one of the big things that is going on is what I found out today, and I think a lot of people have known this, but for me, it's new information. There is a war going on the planet of Saturn, and it's a Luciferian war. Lucifer is on there. It's his war, and we are all connected to it. I don't know how yet. That's the big thing I wanted to get at, is whatever's going on that planet is happening here. You look at what's happening in the Middle East right now. It's a powder keg. It's ready to go. And that's because of the intensity on Saturn, and it ripples effect right into our planet. So a lot of things going on there. Now, when I do some healing work on people, what I was doing today was I was disconnecting them from Saturn. All of a sudden, their symptoms went away. And I actually just did this purposely just to remove Saturn, nothing else. The pain in their body went away. The nausea went away. A lot of the ill feeling they had went away. So it is a ripple effect, and it is causing problems within a lot of us.
That's pretty flippin' interesting that you would talk about Saturn. This is, we have different planetary influences, and we know this, like Mars tends to be associated with war. And that's more than just a an ancient legend or a myth, there's truth to that when you begin to chart these planets and see how they intersect with different historical periods. And Saturn being the ancient god Kronos, that's a very interesting statement that you just made. I need to think about that a lot. But we are connected to this. We're connected energetically. And here again, I think you can probably confirm this for me. We're attached to different places. I think because, first off, we've not lived one life. We've all lived many lives, and I suspect that those lives were interplanetary as well. I've long suspected that we have ancestral ties to other worlds as well as to this one.
Oh, absolutely. Anybody who has a high energy field around them, there's a good chance that they did come from, let's say, Lemuria or Sirius or some other star system. Now, what this means is that we didn't get on a ship and come here and stop at a bus stop and jump off the ship. It's more our spiritual energy, our soul, the essence of us has been taken from there and put into a solid density here in order to, number one, maybe learn something. Also maybe to help the whole planetary evolvement into the new dimension go its course, maybe to help humanity understand what exactly is going on here. So there's a lot of different aspects of why we might be here as coming from a different star system, but many of us are. And more and more people I'm seeing and coming to me, they're saying, yes, I know I'm from a different star system. I just don't know where. I just don't know exactly what it is, but they have this big, strong feeling they're not from here.
Yeah, I've encountered that repeatedly in my life. And I think for some of us, we just know that. And you think, well, what does that mean? Well, I've noticed that people who are attuned to that also have very marked sensitivities to certain things, and they're prone to certain syndromes. I went through years of depressions and some very dark things in my life that were actually good things because they were a conduit to me understanding aspects of my own destiny. Do you encounter a lot of that with the people that you're seeing?
Yeah, I do. What I do with people generally like that is I work in an area called the Homebody. And what the Homebody is your actual real presence on your home planet. So because you're here and you're there through quantum entanglement, you're in the same space at once. So if there is a health problem or some kind of disruption on your Homebody, it's going to affect you here, just like the ripple effect from Saturn to Earth. So there's still going to be that connection, and you can still have that problem. And I have worked on some people in that area, and it has made a difference. When you're doing energy work, there's so many things that you have to consider. There is things that we're just barely starting to learn, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg on knowing what the whole truth is, how things are really working, what the whole heck is going on here.
Yeah, you've just opened up a whole conversation about the fact that we're really learning this stuff. And that, I think, I don't even know if 5 years ago I would have had this conversation. I knew a lot of the concepts. It's taken me most of my life to accept a lot of these things that I kind of already knew. But it feels like there's been an enlargement of the aperture of the spirit in terms of really coming to understand things in a way that even if we didn't struggle with the idea, for instance, of extraterrestrials or the idea that we are quantumly entangled with other worlds and other bodies and other dimensions, you can understand that intellectually, but to begin to act on it is another thing completely. And it seems like now we're being imparted tools and a higher level of understanding for all this.
For us humans, us inquisitive, dense humans, we have to try and logically be able to figure anything out. So when you talk to somebody and tell them that they've got the devil in them, they got Lucifer in them, they've got an ET entity within them, they kind of look at you funny and they can't figure out how can this be in me. And then you try to explain it the best you can. And even we still can't even explain it the way it really is because we don't really know the way it really is. As humans, we have to try and always logically line it up and envision it and try to rationalize on this 3D level what it might be, what it might look like, what it is. You try and explain the meridian system to somebody, they look at you kind of funny, like, well, if I rip my arm open, would I see the meridian from my shoulder to my fingers? Well, no, but it is there. It does exist, just like all the etheric things that are going on in our universe right now.
Yeah, well, and see, that's, again, this whole physicality aspect that we're wrapped up in. I remember meditating, this was a few years ago, where I got this download where I literally saw the universe inside of me, and then it turned inside out. And what was being communicated to me then was basically, yes, every aspect of that universe is inside you, and you are externalizing it, which was a pretty trippy concept even then for me. But we're kind of looking at things from a perspective of this state that we're in, this physicality and the eyes and the senses that we have, which are just, reflections of larger sensory streams that are much larger. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%, of course. We perceive the universe as this big, vast expansion of nothingness with solar systems and stars and blah, blah, blah all through it. And everything we see through the Hubble Space Telescope is...
Yeah, Carl Sagan, billions exactly. And billions, yeah.
But in all reality, what is the universe? I don't know. How far does it go? What's all really going on in there? Heck, I don't know. Who knows? You tell me, then we'll both know.
Well, and this is the grand puzzle, and I do look at it as a mystery, and it may not be a mystery we solve logically. I was saying that, too, to kind of get to a place where you came from the business world. You were working in printing and newspapers. That's pretty 3D. How did you make this gigantic leap from the business world into the place where you are now?
Good question, Randy. It was about 8 years ago. My first wife, she had a rare disease called scleroderma. So she suffered for about 6 years with it. So about 8 years ago, she passed away from it. Uh-huh. So the old story goes, one door closes, another door opens. I was at 46, I was able to retire. So I quit working. I've been working hard all my life, lifting like tons and tons of paper a day and working in a nasty environment. And I met somebody who does this type of work, doing muscle testing and working with herbs and at a certain level. And I looked and I thought, this is pretty cool stuff. So I got nothing better to do. Started going to this guy's store every day, and he started teaching me a little bit. And then I ended up buying a course on how to do it. And then one thing led to another. I found these other courses to buy, and I met another person who does radionics. I met another person who does the sacred geometry tools. And it all kind of culminated together within about a year of me taking all these modalities under me, and I started picking it up extremely quick. Soon enough, people are knocking on my door. Hey, I can hear you. I can hear you cure diabetes. I hear you can cure arthritis and migraines. People started coming to my house and doing this work. All of a sudden, I decided, you know what? I got to make a business out of this. I need a clinic. I need an office. And here I am today. I've been in my office going on 5 years. Got clients all over the world. I do all this work on Skype and on the telephone with the clients from everywhere, from California to the Middle East to Russia, Australia, all over the world. And Randy, I'm here to tell you, it's working. People are getting healed of all of their health problems, and everything that I'm finding, including the alien aspect, the multidimensional aspect, the universal aspects of things, going right into the DNA programming of the chromosomes and finding these little implant chips that aliens are putting in there to have a cause and effect on your body. By removing all of this energy, people's health problems are going away.
That actually makes a lot of sense to me. My background in doing this show actually begins about 5 years ago, and very early on, I was obviously interviewing people with alien contact abduction experiences, but along with that, I was also interviewing people who were coming out of Black Ops government programs, specifically MK Ultra, MK Monarch, and programs like that, who were also these people had been heavily chipped in a very physical way. And as I had these conversations, I became aware of other things such as military abductions where people were saying they didn't know how they were being found. They'd move and they'd have the same experiences over and over again. And then the idea that there were alien implants, the idea that they were putting these into our body, and this is the part you can help me with, Chris. Are we dealing with physical implants? Are we dealing with implants on an astral body level? Explain a little bit about that, because I know that there's people out there that are very interested in this.
Yeah, these are, I'm going to say 99.9% on an astral etheric level, of course. Now they're not going to, they're not going to hold you down and cut your body open and put an implant in. You're going, first of all, you're going to see something, or you're going to know something's wrong. They're going to see it on an X-ray. It's not a physical thing. It is an energetic thing. Now, when these ETs, mostly the reptilians and the Zeta Reticuli, when they go into your DNA, they're working within the epigenome. They're putting an implant on the epigenome, which is a little tail that hangs off of the histone within the core of the DNA. And when something is on there, it triggers something within the chromosomes. It starts something. It makes a change within the programming. I look at the DNA within our body as a computer program.
Absolutely.
They say that most of our DNA is junk DNA. Well, it's not junk DNA. It's just extra hard drive that you got to work with. So by going in there and finding all these different programs that are turned in and turned on, you can start to find out exactly what they're trying to do to you and all these different changes. Now, of course, these ETs, they're all trying to also fix their own DNA. Their DNA has been tampered with for so long that they're trying to find a fix for it. They're also trying to find a way to go into the fifth dimension consciousness with us. Okay? So they're on a quest. They're looking for it in a big way. So when they go into the DNA and they do all the implants, they're trying to make things happen so they can experiment and see how they can use our DNA and splice it and make it part of their own. Like I said before about the causal body, they can put programs, they can put holographic programs in there. They can put programs in the holographic body to make things happen. So it's all on an energetic level. They put things within our soul. They put things everywhere just to get different results and see what happens when they do this.
So they're running programs, and these programs are designed to both test us and at the same time enable them to latch on to us because of this ascension process that we're going through.
Pretty much. Probably some other things involved too, but that is really what I get on an intuitive level when I ask questions with my pendulum, and those are the basic answers that I get. Now, when my wife was pregnant with our first baby, I started testing the baby, of course. I want to make sure this thing is healthy. In the placenta, there was a spirit of a Zeta Reticuli. So we're born with these things.
I've never heard anybody say that before, but now, all of a sudden, that adds a whole new level of understanding to generational abduction scenarios.
Yes, we are born with these things, and there is various videos on YouTube from high-profile people who will attest that yes, we are born with these things. Generally, within our stomach and in our brain, is for the most part, the energy is there. Of course, you crack open your brain, you're not going to see one because it's there on a multi-dimensional spiritual level. Mm-hmm. It's the spirit, it's the energy, it's the essence of one that is in there. We're all born with this. For some reason, I believe it was an agreement made eons ago that they're allowed to do this in order just to research their own DNA, but it's gone way too far and people are just suffering way too much. So now we're getting to that tipping point where God is finally saying enough is enough. Let's do a clearing. Let's do a house cleaning. Let's ascend this planet up and let them live in peace.
Yeah. Wow.
Amen.
That's very mind-blowing. What type of symptoms would people present that would lead you to believe that? Or is there certain types of physical outworkings that are clues to you? Or alternatively, when you go into a reading, do you go into it blank and simply let your dowsing tell you what you're looking for?
What I'll do with a client is I'll just get some basic symptoms from them. What concerns they have, what symptoms they have, and then we'll use that as a focus. If you make a focus out of the appointment, it gets you there a lot quicker. Of course, if I just douse blindly, it would lead me to certain problems, but it may not get to the concerns of a client. 9 times out of 10, there generally is some type of consciousness that is there that is not of their own, whether it's a poltergeist, whether it's an ET, whether it's a curse, whether it's some voodoo, whether it's something demonic or something planetary. Generally, you're going to find something like that within there. Now, a lot of the ETs, they do work hand in hand with the demonic, with Lucifer, with Satan, with the devil. Mm-hmm. They do work with them. There is a working agreement almost. Where there's one, there's another.
And that kind of answers what I was going to ask you, because I was going to ask you if there was a distinction. A long time ago, I was involved with a church, and I got involved heavily in what was called deliverance ministry. And you go into this stuff, and I don't think anything prepares you for it, but I saw some things and heard some things, and, quite frankly, I saw this stuff materialize in front of me, and it felt oddly similar to alien contact experiences. So is the distinction between them specific, or can we just say that there's overlaps along the way?
There is some types of overlaps, but what I like to do is get as specific as I can. If I just say clear out ET, well, what if that consciousness doesn't consider itself ET? Then it doesn't have to leave your body. So I do get very specific. I do get down, is it primal reptilian? Is it reptilian? Is it zeta reticuli? Is it a tall gray? Is it a short gray? There's all these different aspects of species that you have to consider. The more precise you get, the deeper you go, and the better result the client is going to get.
So you get actual visual pictures of these entities, or do you just have a knowing?
It's more of just a knowing. 100%, or let's say 99% of all my work is done through the pendulum. That is my medium. That is my ears. That is my eyes. That is my intuition right there. It'll even spell out sentences on a letter chart exactly what I need to know and how to do things, how to remove it properly. There are a lot of people who can see things, who can smell things and taste things and sense things. Mm-hmm. Whereas myself, if I had all those senses, it would probably drive me off the Slaw Reb Truck Bridge at minus 30 just to get away from it all, because it would drive you crazy. There's a lot of people who are considered schizophrenic because they hear all these voices, but it's their spirit guides all yelling at them at once, and the guy can't catch a break. So he doesn't know what it is. He's hearing voices, and we don't know exactly what we know what it is, but he doesn't. So the community labels him as schizophrenic.
Well, in a lot of cases, and this was my experience when I was young, it's switched on telepathically, and you can't tolerate that level of information. That's why I ask you this question, because it can be overwhelming, the amount of data that can stream in if you're like an open channel. And it took me years to be able to screen things out like that, to be able to screen out telepathic thoughts and energetic things that hit me, especially when you're a kid and you don't know what the hell's going on. Do you get people like that are what would classically be called schizophrenic or psychotic that are dealing with this?
I have a few clients right now who are experiencing, what's really interesting is that one of them experiences, she keeps on hearing songs. Okay, they keep on playing music, and it's stuff from the 50s and 60s that she grew up with. At night, they'll shake her bed. She knows what it is, but she doesn't know how to work with it or to get rid of it. So she calls me, and we start looking, and for me, it is a lot of discovery, because it is something that I've never really worked with on that level. We've got it down to where the volume is very low, but it's still there. But it's a matter of finding it. And what I have discovered is that it is a visitor. It's not called an ET. It's a visitor. And you really have to be specific with the identification. But where is it a visitor from? It's a visitor from Saturn. And it's coming in, and there's a lot of interplanetary travel happening right now with spirits coming in to witness the whole ascension process. This is going to be the hugest thing in the entire universe within any dimension that's ever happened. There are consciousnesses that want to witness this and see it. Now, there's also consciousnesses that are here as let's say, pleasure. So they come into my office and they're watching me on an energetic level doing battle with the devil and somebody. It's just like you and I going to a wrestling match and watching Hulk Hogan beat the heck out of Andre the Giant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Entertainment.
So it is entertainment for them, for sure.
So it's a whole aspect of the spiritual side of this. We've had religious systems that have, for instance, and I'll pick on Christianity. I can do that. I was an ordained minister at one point in time. They talk about spirits. They'll talk about devils. They'll even deal with them on some level, as it was when I did this work. But they seem to deny this great period of time that we're in now, where things are just wide open and there's just like all of this stuff, and yet we've got so many different types of entities coming at us. And one of the things that I heard early on, Chris, when I was doing my early interviews with abductees, was that religion was not prepared to deal with the ET problem because there was nothing in their teachings that would affirm that. And so they treated everything like they were demons, and they used the classic exorcism type strategies to do this. How, in your dealings with this, is it different?
Well, I have dealt with the occult. I have actually done exorcisms over the phone. 11-year-old boy, and he exhibits all of these different traits of walking sideways, and all of a sudden he will just stop in his tracks and start mumbling something in somebody else's voice. His mom calls me and says, "Excuse me, Chris, but my son is demon possessed. Can you help him?" So I started working on him, and I started removing the Antichrist. I started moving Lucifer, the devil, Beelzebub, Incubus, all of these big name dark forces, and sure enough, the kid starts writhing on the ground and growling and hissing, and his eyes roll back in his head. He starts muttering something, and this actually happened. I heard it. I've also done demonic removal on people in my office. For instance, a lady comes in and she's got pain in her in her ascending colon for 20 years. They take out her gallbladder, they take out her uterus, they do all these operations. Nothing helped. She came in and I did some dowsing. I says, "Oh, you've got Lucifer in there." She looks at me and goes, "What?" I says, "Just humor me for a second." So I went and removed Lucifer from her ascending colon, and I just said the words, "Remove Lucifer." And all of a sudden, the pain went from the right side to her left side. She looked at me and says, "What just happened? That pain moved. It's been there for 20 years. What'd you do?" I says, "The game is afoot. We're chasing Lucifer." So then I chased him around her body a little bit, and then I kicked him out. I got rid of him. I wore him down, and her pain went away for good. It was completely gone. So the whole demonic aspect of that identification of that entity was Lucifer. When you go into the ET aspect, same thing. Identify it, move it out. It's just stinking energy.
My God, it's like we're a high-rise apartment. We've got all this stuff going on in this. It's amazing.
It is amazing in its own right, yeah.
Does somebody have to invest a tremendous amount of belief in what you're doing for you to be successful? Does it work for you? Does it work against you, depending on the person's belief structure?
Ultimately, if you're going to make an appointment to come see me, you're already open-minded enough, right, and you do know that these types of things exist on all these different levels. Nobody has ever hung up the phone on me and said, I'm out of here. Nobody's ever got up and left my office. People who come to see me, they trust me. When I do explain something that is sounding really crazy, I do it in a way that they can understand. I add a little bit of humor in there, and I make people feel comfortable about it. And I just say, "Humor me. Let's move this out and see what happens." And they go, "Okay." But ultimately, even if you didn't have a belief system into it, it could still work. The only thing is you may not just recognize that it did work. You just might say, "Oh, it would have gone away on its own anyway." Mm-hmm. So for the most part, having an open mind is very important. If you weren't open-minded, you wouldn't be there anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Do you have people who oppose what you do?
There are people who oppose what I do. I come from a strict Mennonite background.
Okay. I live in a place where I have Amish and Mennonites all around me. I live very close to Lancaster County, the ground zero for Amish and Mennonites. So I'm very familiar. Yeah.
I've got a lot of family. My mom was the youngest of 17 kids, so I've got lots of aunts and uncles.
Wow.
And we just had a family reunion about 3 weeks ago, and I went there, and everybody's like, "Oh, Chris, so what are you doing with your life?" And I tell them, well, I do healing work. And they're like, "Oh, that must be wonderful." Then I start telling them, how I do it, and they look at me and go, "Oh, may God bless you." I says, "Yes, God blesses me every day." So I do get a lot of opposition. We've got friends that we go visit, my wife and I, and everybody loves to sit around and talk about their health problems. And I look at them and say, "Look, why don't you just come and try it? I can get rid of it." "No, that's okay. My doctor's taking care of me," as they hack up a lung. So the opposition, people will look at you a little funny, and they'll turn their head and keep their distance, but they don't know quite what to make of you. And that I just accept it for what it is, because I know there's always going to be somebody who doesn't quite understand it or doesn't quite agree with it.
On the other side of that, how do you protect yourself? You're obviously doing hazardous duty here, dude. It's, demons and ETs and devils and all the other subcategories of the underworld that nobody even wants to know about. So what do you do to keep Chris Kehler healthy and uninfested?
I consider myself fortunate with the energy that I do have around me, that things aren't able to get into me that easy. What's really ironic is probably a quarter of all my clientele are other healers.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow. Yeah. I've got people who've been doing this work for 30, 40 years calling me and saying, "Help." That they know they've been hit, they know that they're having these troubles because of the work they're doing, and they've got this big mark on them that invites all of these energies in, of course. I mean, I consider shiny people, so the entities want to go to the bright and shiny people, right? Because their energy is bigger. Now, I'm able to heal myself on a large scale. I can't do absolutely everything, but my spirit guides will get my attention and say, "Hey, go into consciousness, and you have to find something in your chakra system right now," and I'll move it out, and it's gone. Ultimately, I can take care of myself. I'll just test myself every week or so and just make sure that there's nothing there and just clear myself out. Now, the energy tools that I do use, my office is full of them. So the energy in my office is extremely high. It's very hard for a dark consciousness to really exist in there. So I feel I'm very well protected, and I do have some very good friends, colleagues, I call them, that do come visit me, and they help me out a little bit when I need it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that you employ, Chris. And the sacred geometry tools, and I'd like to talk a little bit about your application of radionics as well.
The tools that I use, the basis of them is pyramids. The way that a pyramid works is at the very tip of the pyramid will be positive ions, and as it slopes down, it becomes negative ions, which are the good ions for your body. Now, the pyramid that I like to use, we call it the silver light pyramid. And there is a picture of it on my website, chriskehler.net. You can see it's a 5-tiered pyramid. There's 5 different pyramids, 7-inch bases. And they're all glued together in different ways with crystals and magnets and lots of different sacred geometry. There's a Shunkite pyramid on the top of it. And what this pyramid does is it acts in 2 different ways. It acts as number one, as an antenna for quantum energy to be harnessed and coming in. And number 2, it acts as an amplifier for that quantum energy. The depth or the layers that this pyramid will send energy in is about 15 layers, which in the energy world is extremely deep. When most people are working with their hands, they might be able to go 1, 2, maybe 4 layers deep, and subsequently the illness will come back after a while. When you're working with an amplifier and an antenna, you can go so deep that this illness is gone and it doesn't come back. So I like using that. All I do is hold it over a person's head, say the words to neutralize whatever the problem is that I find, and people feel the energy. That's the beautiful thing that I like about these tools, is that 99% of everybody is going to feel the energy, and you feel it in the form of a tingle, you feel a buzzing, you might feel a heat, you might feel what's called a shift, where it feels like you just got moved across the room in an elevator. So the tools themselves have some very specific purposes. The pyramid will do multitasking. There's some other tools I use. One is called a neutralization ring, which I also have on my website, and I sell these on my website too, so everybody can benefit from them. So the neutralization ring, when you use that one and stand over it, it'll draw out negative energies out of your body to kind of shake the tree a little bit, so when we go in, things are a little easier to clean up. There's also beamer wands, which is copper pipe coated with gold, and they hold the frequency of the 5 noble gases, which facilitate something different depending on what you need to do. So the tools are very important. A lot of healers will look at me and say, well, why don't you just use your hands? Are you not good enough? All I say to that is, well, my hands are holding the tools, aren't they? So I am using my hands, but I'm just amplifying the energies, and I'm actually doing some good instead of taking somebody's money and sending them on their way without problem being fixed.
Let's talk a little bit about the radionics. I'm very interested in that. I've talked to other people about it from time to time. I'm always fascinated by radionics and how they're applied and what they are. Let's start with, defining a little bit the radionic instruments that you're using.
Before I got into using the pyramids, I was into radionics. Now, radionics is the use of frequencies. Everything in our body, everything in the world, everything in the universe vibrates at its own frequency. So with a radionic device, you're able to isolate and cancel out and harmonize these frequencies. So let's say you want to work on somebody's liver and remove a virus. Well, the radionic code or vibration for liver is 22 by 75.6. So you put that in the machine, and then you'll take the radionic value of a specific virus, and you'll put that in the machine. You'll flick a button, and it'll harmonize out the last frequency you put into the machine out of the area that you put in. So it works as a deharmonizer, let's say, to nullify any specific frequencies. Now, these frequencies have to be extremely precise. If they're out just a little bit, it's not going to work so well. So what I like to use my radionic device for is actually taking frequencies and charging them into different things like wristbands. I buy from China these wristbands with the holograms in them, and I use them as a homeopathic medicine. I use them to give people protection. I use them for various different things, and I've developed one that works really good for sleep. If you have a hard time sleeping at night, you wear one of these wristbands and you sleep like a baby. For balancing female hormones, when that good old time of the month comes around, they work fantastic. My wife loves them. So there's many uses for all this, but at the same time, it's getting humanity to realize, okay, there's some validity to these things. How do they work? And we need to take the mysticism out of it and just let people know that they do work. So that's what I like to do with my radionic devices, to charge things. I'm now making monatomic Ormus gold water, charged with some specific heavenly frequencies connecting with Christ consciousness and different energies within the universe that works amazing for depression and for anxiety, for expanding your aura, and for doing things on very spiritual levels. The radionic device has got a lot of purpose within my clinic. I don't quite use it the way a lot of other people do. There's radionic devices out there that are computer driven, like a Skio or an Indigo. They work too. They work very well. It all depends on the practitioner. How good is the practitioner? You could take one of these big fancy pyramids and try to heal somebody with it, but if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to do any good. So no matter what the modality is, if it's radionics, if it's metaphysicals, if it's hands-on healing, no matter what it is, if the practitioner knows what they're doing, then it'll work.
Any other modalities or technology? I call all of this technology, by the way. I consider a crystal to be advanced technology.
Sure.
The types of crystals you're working with as something that maybe even we can leave people with us tonight, that we can work with on our own a little bit, just even to kind of balance ourselves out.
Well, one of the newest crystals out there is called Shunkite. Shunkite is a black stone. It looks a lot like it could be carbon. It is found only in one area in Russia from a meteor strike. And it left behind this mineral called Shunkite, and it's got a lot of healing properties to it. You can take the crystals of it, shards, and put it in water to charge water with minerals. It'll purify your water at a very high level. It'll add specific healing energies to it. The pyramids will absorb EMF and ELF frequencies from your computer.
Ooh, that's a big one right there.
Yeah. From your Wi-Fi, you put one of these on your Wi-Fi, and it'll absorb all those energies so they don't transmit into your body. So there's a lot of really good healing aspects with Shunkite. The community, the world is still getting to know it, and it's starting to realize its true potential, and it still hasn't even woken up yet. There's still a lot of things that you're going to be able to do with that haven't activated because it's so new. Now, I do work a lot with crystal quartz. Our body is made up of a bunch of specific minerals. Number one is carbon. The second one is silica dioxide. Silica dioxide is quartz crystal. Now, it's been said that as this whole ascension thing is happening, our bodies are going to turn into a crystal. We're going to go crystal. And what that means is the silica dioxide within our bodies is going to become a hardened quartz. So that's what I get out of it. How do you top up your quartz level?
Right, yeah.
A lot of people are asking me. Here's how you do it. You go and you find a product called diatomaceous earth. A lot of people have heard about this. A lot of people use it to clear parasites out of their body, but the high level of silica dioxide in it is what your body needs in order for all these activations to happen. Diatomaceous earth has got a lot of spiritual properties. It's got a lot of health properties. It's got a lot of nutrients that your body needs. If you're a person who is concerned about their bone health and you're taking calcium, well, I'm going to tell you right now to stop, because calcium will kill you. If you take too much of it, it's going to build up in your veins and arteries in your heart and your brain, and it's going to kill you. What you need more than anything else is the component that is going to absorb the calcium into your bones, and that is silica dioxide. Vitamin K2 is also very big. Everybody knows about magnesium and vitamin D, but nobody knows about the silica. So that is an important role in our bodies as far as an energy, as far as a nutrient, as far as an ascension element.
That's pretty interesting stuff. I had not heard that before either. Yes, I've been very aware of the, especially the magnesium aspect of it. But say that again.
Diatomaceous earth. It's from crushed diatoms.
Okay. There you go. Assuming that there are folks out there, and I know there's some people out there that do, how would they contact you? How do they work with you?
It's very easy. Go to my website, chriskehler.net, and it's spelled KEHLER.net. Very easy to find. You can read about my tools and about some of the things I have within my store, my webpage. Now, if you want to book an appointment, go onto the front page of my website. There's a little button that says book appointment. All you do is press on that button. A calendar will open up and you can pick a date, and it'll show you the availability I have. It's from a company called BookFresh. It's fantastic. You can book your own appointment. It's easy as cooking hot dogs. And you can find out what day works best for you and what time works best for you. Fill in all the information, and what's going to happen is when your appointment comes up, I will phone you or I will Skype you, and we will do the appointment. So it's not going to cost you any long distance. You're not going to burn up any of your time on your cell phone. And the cost for my services, which do work very well, is only $55 a session. There's a lot of people out there who will charge you $800 or $1,000 or $1,200 to do this type of work. Those people are full of ego, and you don't need them. You need somebody who's not going to take all your money. You need somebody who's going to be honest, upfront, and do as much work as they can in as little time as you can so you can get on with your life.
Excellent. Very good. There you go. One more time, your website, Chris.
Website is chriskehler.net.
And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to break on the hour cue, and when we come back, we're going to introduce you to Whisper, who is a person that has gone through about 10 years of interactions with alien ET attacks, and we're gonna talk to him about his experiences, and then we're gonna also go over how Chris worked with him and the outcomes that he had there. And I think for those of you who have an interest in this, and again, I know my audience, I know you do, this is going to be a huge interview. This is the first time that Whisper has come forward, and we will do that all on the flip side of Off Planet Radio. We'll be right back.
Off Planet Radio will return after this brief interlude. Stay tuned.